Oh, guys, it's been barricaded because the migrants are more important. So you're here standing up against racism.
Yes.
So would you say the people with the Union Jacks are racist?
It's. I'd say that there is a system in place which encourages this kind of them and us mentality. It may be that they are racist, it might be that they're not, and that they are genuinely affected by some of the things that they do try to talk about. And one of the things that we do find in the modern day is that we're losing a lot of the nuance in these things. But we're here just standing up against the people who are trying to do harm to, people who are refugees, people who are LGBTQ, etc., etc.
Do you know why the protest initially started, like 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, sorry.
Yes. So there is one person who has been arrested for sexual violence against a minor.
Was he a immigrant or refugee or just an average person?
He was one of the refugees who was staying at one of the places up near Epping, I believe.
So here's the context. June the 29th, 2025, a migrant arrived in the UK by boat. 8 days later, he's arrested in Epping and he was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. Now, this man was 41 years old. He was from Ethiopia. Then, fast forward a few weeks later, the same hotel, a different migrant, this time a 32-year-old Syrian, he was also charged with sexual assault, common assault, and assault by beating. So you got two men staying in the same migrant hotel, both charged with serious sexual offences within weeks of arriving in the country, which is what sparked the protests. And then you've got all these liberals with their refugees welcome signs, which to me seems like really bad timing after what's just happened. And they're protesting the citizens who are protesting because they're not happy with what's just happened. All right. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
However, that does not paint all refugees as criminals.
Did you hear them say all refugees?
Who?
The people on the opposing side.
I haven't heard very much.
That's true.
So do you feel like it's justifiable to protest against the person who assaulted that little child, or do you think it's wrong for them to do that?
I feel that painting an entire group as bad because of the actions of one person would have them all turning against each other instantly.
Yeah. Just one question though, because I did interview people on the other side, and they also felt like you guys are kind of demonizing them to be neo-Nazi racist. So what you just said about calling everyone else, calling all refugees racist, they also feel as though you are calling every single person who just wants to preserve their safety in the UK as neo-Nazis, when really they just want the safety of children. Is that a fair argument, would you say?
I think that if you look at the history of every single movement that has used children, that has used protection of women and children as the ideological driving point, you will see that they've actually done more harm to women and children than anything else.
What are you saying? What are you saying? What is he saying?
So instead of addressing the actual incidents that happened, two separate sexual assaults in the same hotel with one of the victims being a 14-year-old girl, no, they don't want to address that. He's now trying to drag the conversation into like some vague history lesson with no specifics on what he means. The reality is, people are protesting because actual crimes happened right here by people who shouldn't be here or there, because I'm not in the UK. This isn't like a history lesson, is it? It's a current safety concern. If I lived in the UK still, and I lived anywhere near these hotels, there's no way I'd let my daughters walk around the streets. And there's a lot of parents who feel the same. That's why they're outraged and that's why they're protesting. And they're just getting labelled as far right or racist by these complete muppets.
In what way?
If you look at everything except for the seatbelt introduction, there have been minority groups who have been adversely affected by this being applied unequally. I do have a lot of reading material. I can give you if you wish.
Just one last question. How do you feel that a lot of the refugees that you are defending right now actually don't believe in LGBTQ and trans and queer, and actually in their country, someone who's queer or trans will actually be hung? How do you feel that that's their mentality and you're defending them?
as a queer trans person.
A queer trans person, so basically you're a male trying to be a woman, but you still like women. So basically you're straight with extra steps. Okay. Now this has already happened, by the way. A sense of betrayal, liberal dismay as a Muslim-led US city bans pride flags. Many liberals celebrated when Hamtramck, Michigan elected a Muslim-majority council in 2015, but a vote to exclude LGBTQ flags from city property has soured relations. It's like a complete lack of self-awareness, isn't it?
I think both bad, like, but that doesn't mean that their rights should be taken away. Like, we need to be very aware of it's all a system of exploitation and oppression. Man, shut your... And we are all subject to this. Every single one of us.
But if you was to be in, say, for example, Syria or Libya, you would be oppressed. So do you think that maybe the English is justifiable for them to protest against people coming in who may be against people like yourself who are queer and LGBTQ? Do you think that's justifiable?
I think that England has had a long history of welcoming very diverse groups. No worries. A long history of welcoming very diverse groups. That we are the great melting pot, and that yes, if I were to go over there, I may well be subject to discrimination and hanging, etc., etc. However, over here, that doesn't mean that we should do that to them.
What's love? Yo.
See, these people compare immigration today to the immigration that we had in the 50s and the 60s, but back then people actually came to work and helped build the country. There wasn't no luxury hotel waiting for you. So today, they turn up, they get put in a 4-star hotel like this.
A group of migrants were pictured running into the Britannia Asylum Seeker Hotel early this morning. They are the latest arrivals at the controversial 4-star Canary Wharf Hotel in London. It was closed to customers and converted into taxpayer-funded accommodation instead. Last night, new migrants arrived in a coach and were escorted inside by security. The young men were spotted arriving at around 5:45 in the morning.
Now obviously this is costing a lot of money, about $3 billion a year. So the government thought, how are we going to get some of this money back? And the first thing they tried to do was scrap the winter fuel allowance, which is a payment given to pensioners in the UK, which helps them cover their heating bills. So they're basically saying, we don't care that you've paid into the system your whole life, because we need to pay $3 billion a year for these new arrivals. And this is why people are pretty annoyed.
So basically you're here with your Stop the Far Right sign, and you're basically standing up against racism. So do you believe the people across the street holding the English flag are racist?
Yes. Sure, yes, I do. I think the England they're standing for is not what England should stand for.
Sorry if you stand back. Yeah. So what exactly did they say that was racist that you would deem?
Well, my flatmate heard last night the peace slur thrown around a lot just on the street. They hurl abuse at specifically POC people. I think actions like that in itself are racist.
What type of abuse did they hurl?
So there were a few.
You could do so.
Were a few delivery drivers that they tried to physically attack before the police stopped them, who were coming into the hotel and coming out of the hotel. They called people lots of names. They called me a cunt in my own flat. They hurl abuse at multiple people who try and say they think their opinion's wrong in any sort of way. And the fact that they're here today, I think, is just racist in itself.
So she thinks just by being there that makes you racist. Meanwhile, an illegal migrant who resides in the Britannia Hotel has walked uninvited into a blind woman's home and was promptly chased out. He was then detained by locals until the police arrived, who then let him go, as apparently it's not an offence. I mean, come on. This is the man right here.
This is the guy. This is him. He just tried to walk into a girl's house on the IOD. We watched her chase him. Now he's trying to cover his face. Look.
Please. We caught you, mate. We caught you. We caught you!
Says the man is said to have entered the house after being followed by a group of men on the street and then told to go back to the hotel. So who knows what would have happened if those men on the street didn't see what he was doing and intervene. And it says blind woman was terrified when a migrant living just meters away in the Canary Wharf hotel bursts into her home. Well, I'm sure she's going to be over the moon when she finds out he was freed with no charges and is still allowed to roam around them same streets.
This man in this vehicle has just entered a lady's property without her consent, and these officers have said it's not an offence. They're letting him go. They're letting him go. Officer, how is that not an offence? How is it not an offence entering someone's house?
That poor lady.
Regardless, she didn't want him in the house.
Is alarm fear and distress? Is alarm fear and distress an offence? Is she not alarmed even in fear?
You're letting him go.
Let him go. He's allowed to do that.
He's
allowed to do that.
And I get fucking raped. And I hope you fucking watch it.
If he does it again, when he does it, he's arrested. He does it again.
Regardless, he's done it once. He don't need to do it again. He doesn't need to do it again.
When I'm walking over to
you know you're going to cause a war on the streets. You know you're causing a war on the streets, right?
If I ain't in my pocket, I'm not going to dig nothing. I can walk in their house and say, look,
you're causing a war on the streets. How are you letting him go?
What's your name? I'm going to walk in someone's house and not say nothing. And I'll get all their collar numbers.
You have said that it isn't an offence entering a property. Can I have your name, number, please? Yeah, go for it. Do you think it's not an offence entering a property? Regardless, if I entered your house with your wife and kids in there, are you going to be angry and want to get me arrested?
Be angry, but you have to prove intent for it to be burglary. Yeah?
I had done the same thing when I was 16. I got arrested for attempted burglary.
So they would have had to prove your
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. All I done was walked in the house. I got done for attempted burglary, and I was in the middle of an argument. Mate, you're a fucking disgrace, an absolute disgrace. You're a disgrace to the UK government, to the UK people. You're a disgrace. All of you are a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
You're going to end up nicking her.
Okay, so here's the update of what actually went on. I think the guy's finally been arrested, alright? It says the woman tried to storm a migrant hotel with a weapon. A woman has been charged with trying to force her way into a hotel housing migrants with an offensive weapon after one of the residents allegedly walked into her blind mother's East London flat. It says at the time of the alleged incident on Wednesday evening, the man was living at the 4-star Britannia Hotel on the Isle of Dogs. Police said he was no longer staying there. So it looks like he's probably been relocated. So Thames Magistrates Court was told that Shanae, 22, had chased the migrant away after discovering him inside her mother's flat, a 5-minute walk away from the Britannia. A man was detained by members of the public nearby but was not immediately arrested because police said their initial investigation had not identified any offences. After checking CCTV and speaking to witnesses, officers arrested a man in the Hackney area on suspicion of common assault in the early hours of Friday. Now, the Britannia Hotel in Hackney, that's about 30 minutes away, so I'm guessing they probably moved him to somewhere in Hackney, I don't know. So yeah, that's the update. That's what people are frustrated about, right? The guy basically doesn't get arrested, and then eventually he does get arrested because they check CCTV or whatever. I think people were outraged, and that's what forced them to actually arrest this guy.
From my understanding, this protest initially started because a migrant actually tried to assault a child in Epping. So do you think they have a right to protest for children and the protection of children?
I think protesting for children's safety as itself is a justifiable reason, but I think this goes beyond it. Children's safety as a whole should be protected, women's safety as a whole should be protected. But if you look at other numbers, POC women, POC children, they are also attacked on a higher scale, and just because one person from a certain group attacks someone does not mean everyone in that group is going to attack someone.
What about the argument that immigration is making the country very, very difficult to live in? Because obviously this country is already packed and we're all struggling financially, so to keep importing people in the millions, don't you think that's a fair argument that they should try to balance out the number of people coming in rather than allowing millions to come in?
Balancing, I suppose, could be taken into account, but this country is built on immigration. It's built on the Windrush generation who came in after World War II. If you go to Brick Lane is built on the Bangladeshi community. It is built on their community that thrived in Brick Lane. the UK would be nothing without immigration.
But the thing is that yes, migrants helped build it, but the foundation is actually British English culture. So don't you think the English have a right to want to preserve that and not want to see it eradicated? For example, where I'm from Congo, and we're having a huge influx of Chinese people coming in, trying to change the culture, trying to change the language, and we don't want that. We want to preserve our Congolese culture. Shouldn't the English also want to preserve their English language, culture, traditions?
Well, I think historically that's not 100% correct. Unless you can prove you were here before the Romans, before the Anglo-Saxons, before the Vikings, then you are Germanic, you are Roman, you are Nordic. You come from that culture. That culture made English culture. It's an amalgamation of Germanic culture, Nordic culture, Roman culture, which made English culture, but it's still an amalgamation of all different ones.
Oh my God, just shut up, please, just shut up already.
So yeah, these people are obviously completely out of touch with reality. There's too many things I could say, but I'm just not going to do it because you guys can comment down below what you think. One thing I will say is though, preserving your culture doesn't need you to prove that you was here before the Romans. That is a ridiculous standard. By that logic here, no culture in the world is valid because pretty much all cultures have influences from somewhere else, right? The culture is defined by what it is now and what people want to keep. So she doesn't really know what she's talking about. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll catch you on the next one. Also, make sure you go and follow Based and Bougie. She's the one doing the interview. So shout out to her and I'll catch you on the next one.